organizations who would provide the services to the end users, to those youth.
So there would be an RFP for that. Okay.
Mr.
Great.
Chair, Council President, yes, that's right.
Thank you.
Let me just add to that, Mr. Chair, Council President Johnson. Let me just certainly add to that. That the Build Youth will have 4 cohorts. There'll be 13 students or youth in each cohort. One cohort will serve Little Earth. The other 3 will serve South Minneapolis, North Minneapolis, and Cedar Riverside. As Director Frank has already articulated, the plan is to issue an RFP to a community-based organization to actually facilitate the program. Which is another reason why, and I know there was an FTE that was reflected in the budget summary page, and the decision based on conversations with staff is that we probably will not need that FTE in light of the fact that we will be contracting with an external organization that will provide the necessary staffing support. And so let me just, so I can continue to move things forward here. In summary, and thank you for your questions. In summary, there are several compelling reasons, why we should invest in this program. But I will give you what I believe are the 2 most compelling reasons. The first is simply that homicides is the 3rd leading cause of death for youth ages 15 to 24. Let me say that again. Homicide, not heart attacks, not diabetes, not cancer, is the 3rd leading cause of death for youth in Minnesota ages 15 to 24. The second reason is that the incident rates for sexual assault, rape, robbery, aggravated assault for people ages 25 to 15 is higher than any other age group in Minnesota. Again, another call to action. So I implore you, as you think about this moving forward, the impact that this would have on our youth and our community.
Well, Mr. Taylor, we got a couple more questions.
Sure.
Councilmember Goodman was first, Council Vice President Glidden, and then Councilmember Bender.
Certainly.
Oh, Bender was first. Okay.
Mr.
We'll go
Taylor.
with Council Goodman, please.
This group of people has been very committed to youth violence prevention activity, and there have been many programs and a lot of money spent on this. I'm wondering, given this call to action that you're giving us, if you're holding CPED accountable for crime statistics within this age group then being reduced as a result of these programs, how are you going to evaluate whether or not potential participants in any of these programs become involved in crime going forward? Or are we just pushing the money out the door, patting ourselves on the back? I think about programs like Lewis King's. We would help fund students who meet a very specific profile to get a GED, and we could measure, do they get the GED or not? After they get the GED, do they get a job? So I'd like to see how these programs are not a call to action, but a call for results. If you're going to tell us that this is so important to our violence prevention strategy, then I want to know what the result is. And pardon my skepticism, but I do think there's a lot of talk about doing things and not a lot of doing things. And so this seems to me that we're funding organizations who are saying they're going to get involved in programs, and I'd be very interested in measuring results. I know how to measure Lewis King's results.
Duly noted. And hopefully Director Frank and our employment and training staff will be thinking about the types of metrics that will be employed to make sure that we are measuring the kind of outcomes and results and impact, most importantly, on those that we're trying to serve with this program.
Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually also wanted to highlight that I know the council has committed many times to focus on youth violence prevention, and I'm not as involved as some of my colleagues in that work, but so I didn't know if the many sort of boards like the Youth Congress and others had worked to help identify this as a priority for focus on this work, or how those different groups have been engaged in recommending this, if they had.
Mr. Chair, that's a great question. Director Frank, maybe I'll let you respond to that.
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Bender, I'm not specifically aware of whether there's been this kind of support that you're asking about. I do know that as our employment and training staff put forward some potential programs for the mayor's consideration for her proposal, the ones we put forward, we felt strongly that there was support for, not just from our staff, but from outside stakeholders. But I can't comment as I stand here which specific organizations supported this specific program.
Council Vice President?
Thanks. And maybe I'm just not understanding. It's a brief summary, and that's the intent here. But just part of my question was, why is this program here as opposed to within the health department? Again, because it seems like there's the focus on facilitation, leadership, and I understand the job skills are part of it too. But it just and I just asked that because the health department has managed many programs that seem to overlap with some of the items here. It feels confusing to me, and that we're splintering our efforts as opposed to being more focused and aligning, and then as some folks have kind of said, making sure we're really able to evaluate and put this in a context of a body of work as opposed to just being able to say we spent $362,000. I mean, so I agree with the comment that this is a council that wants to continue our commitment to working on these issues. I think I'm just a little bit challenged by kind of how this is appearing here and what's the context, how's it related to a pretty large body of work. So.
Thank you. There's a couple more questions. We have Council President Johnson and then Councilmember Yang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm going to echo Councilmember Glidden's question. As I think through, and I don't even know if we've had the health department's request or, the mayor's proposals for the health department, but if memory serves me, there's a couple new programs in there that are of this kind of flavor. And so I do think it would be helpful to us to understand why CPED is taking this on. And also then in the context of what is the health department doing in this arena? I mean, we keep adding, and it's like a salesman comes along and says, I got a new and better program. And, we say, oh yeah, because guess what? We're not making progress on some of these outcomes that we're desiring. The statistics continue to be a problem. And so anyway, results are really interesting. And I just think we're getting confused with seeing this particular program in CPED and not health, because that's typically where our stuff has come through. And if it was in health, it would have the oversight or the input from the Youth Congress, that kind of thing, that Councilmember Bender was talking about.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to add to this conversation. I don't think anybody's really challenging the amount. It's really how it's going to be spent and how we can deliver results for that investment. I just wanted to point out the Youth Cabinet is one of the groups that we work on internally that I have been chairing. And I think this does provide an opportunity to really be a multi-discipline kind of collaboration on this particular topic. So where it lives is still up in the air, obviously, but I don't think anybody's questioning the value of the issue. We're just looking for outcomes and being involved in that RFP process to measure those results. Councilmember Yang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to echo the comments of the Council President and the Council Vice President with regards to this Build Youth program. And I guess the big question is, what expertise CPED has with regards to, youth violence prevention. I know that, we have something like that in the health department already. And I'm just wondering if there is that sort of collaboration between or among different departments to, get to a result that we all want to see. But, I'm not asking for a response. I'm more so just putting a comment out there that I share the same concerns with regards to this.
Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to echo and champion what you said. I champion what you said. I sit on the youth coordinating board, and if Councilmember Gordon was here, who leads the youth coordinating board, I'm sure he would be speaking up. So I'm trying to do that in his stead right now. But our youth coordinating board not only has youth street workers, a coordination with all of the county kinds of programs and the school board and the park board, but it really seems like the logical place from which to run a program like this. And to help get all of the coordination between different units of government. So I promise to take a look at this and to dive into this deeper with you offline, and perhaps with Mr. Gordon and Ann DeGroot, who's the head of our youth coordinating board. So thank you for that comment.
Sure. Is it Council President Johnson? Or is that Lisa? Okay. Go ahead, Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure this is the way Mr. Taylor wanted it to go, but everyone thinks about their questions when they come up. I'll also note that on page 36, enhancement 11 is not a enhancement that should be in the CPED budget. That's a straight up grant contribution to a senior program. And we had a lot of consternation and conversation in the health department's budget about the potential closing down of the downtown Skyway Senior Center. And the fact that they don't have money to put into it, which I support because we're not supposed to be giving grants to nonprofits to do their work. And then here we see $25,000 grant in the CPED enhancement to fund a similar thing. So I'm wondering why this isn't in the health department's budget and why it's not weighed against other senior programs.
Mr. Chair, I think certainly I appreciate very valid comments and points and well taken, will be taken under advisement. I think there's an opportunity for us to go back and have further discussion with respect to your comments, and certainly also to think about what are the alignments between this program and certainly the work that the health department and other organizations, quite frankly, are doing. I think, again, your points are well taken, duly noted.
Thank you. Council Vice President Glidden. Oh, my fault. Good. We'll let you continue, Mr. Taylor.
Move to enhancement number 7, please. The mayor's recommended budget includes an enhancement of $850,000, again, for business development. The funds would be used to support our Great Streets program, which is a great program. Great Streets aims to strengthen the economic vitality of our commercial areas and commercial corridors by funding a range of viable opportunities and options for city businesses. Great Streets recognizes the individual uniqueness of each district and the distinct opportunities and challenges that are faced by businesses in those districts. Great Streets provides organizations with the flexibility to customize their own approach to revitalization, given the distinct needs of their respective areas. The Great Streets Neighborhood Business District program provides a variety of tools to help revitalize and sustain our commercial corridors and nodes throughout the city. These tools include gap financing for real estate redevelopment projects, flexible city dollars for facade improvement and matching grants, and business district support contracts. Business district support contracts, if I may add, help community-based organizations to implement strategies to support and sustain commercial district vitality, which is something I know is a priority for all of us. This includes business district marketing and branding of different events that help to attract customers as well as recruit businesses.
Councilmember Glidden. I'm sorry, Mr. Taylor. Councilmember Glidden had a question.
Thanks. I just wanted, if you could remind me, what's been the average funding for the Great Streets program over the last few years? I'm a big supporter of the program. I think it's been run really well, and you've dealt with decreases in funding for the program with some good strategies, but I just wanted someone to remind me of that.
It's a great question, Mr. Chair. Council Vice President Glidden, I believe it's been about $850 to $1 million. Between Great Streets and the facade magic. It's been roughly in that general vicinity.
In the past? So it's about the same as it's been in this previous, or in this draft proposal.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Chair, yes, that's right. So, the question is how much we've spent, and that's right. There's some nuances about how much has been appropriated each year, what the budget has been, but we've been spending between the two programs, Great Street and the Facade Matching Grant Program, about $850 per year.
Councilmember Goodman. Is that?
Just, Councilmember Cano asked me this question and I couldn't answer it, so I'm going to bring it up. Is this an enhancement of 850 over what the base budget is, or is this just recapitalizing the revolving fund? I see Henry shaking his head. So why is this even an enhancement at all? If it's not, we've had this program, it's hugely successful, people love it. It spends between just under $1 million. How do you call this an enhancement if it's funding of an existing program? Is that kind of what you were asking?
I'm just trying to figure out how much money more we're putting into the fund.
Which sounds like none.
I think
Mr.
we also
Chair.
may be talking about the source of the funds.
Sure. Mr. Chair, Council Members Goodman and Cano, as I was just saying a moment ago, so our spend on this program, which is a terrific program, between the two, between Great Street's business support, business district support, and the Facade Matching Grant Program has been about $850,000 per year. Because something like 5 years ago, the mayor and council chose to allocate dollars to the program such that we built up a balance in the fund and then spent it down such that by the end of this year, 2015, we would have no money left for either piece of the program. It counts as new money under the budget process. So that's why it's showing up as an enhancement, because in the past few years, there has not been an allocation to the program.
So the answer is this is basically funding it at the level we've been funding it annually, but we're calling it enhancement and it's not.
It's a continuation, I would say, of that investment and spending down balances that have accrued so we don't have to re-tax for it.
Mr. Chair, that's right.
Did you have another question, Councilmember Goodman, or are you still good? Okay. Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is this enhancement as in the budget as ongoing as $850,000 annually, or is this a one-time expense that we expect to revisit annually?
I'm sorry. My hearing, it sounds muffled, so I'm having a problem here. My apologies.
Is this $850,000 intended to be an ongoing annual allocation, or will we revisit the amount that goes into this annually?
These funds, I believe.
It's showing up as a one-time and continuing. So, Councilmember, I think your question might be best addressed to Ms. Christensen.
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember Bender. The funding, the $850,000 funding for the Great Streets program is provided for out of a non-general fund resource. It's a special revenue fund, and as such, we revisit the utilization of those funds on an annual basis. There is actually $988,000 in Great Streets because of the utilization of some federal dollars. So the overall program is $988,000, excuse me, with approximately $850 provided for out of flexible non-general fund resources that are reviewed on an annual basis.
Is that it?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I think that's helpful. I think that means that we would then expect to see this in the budget annually each time as a one-time expense and make that decision annually. Thank you.
Okay.
You're good to go.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Moving forward, enhancement number 8. The mayor's recommended budget includes an enhancement of $500,000 to support the business development program. Those funds will come from the development fund. The funds will be used to support CARF, our Capital Acquisition Revolving Fund, which is a strategic fund that focuses specifically on the redevelopment of commercial and industrial property. The way CARF has been structured in the past has been somewhat restrictive. So our flexibility to buy commercial properties in specific areas has been somewhat limited to those that are only situated in areas that meet the past requirements of the CARF fund. By lifting those geographic restrictions, ladies and gentlemen, it will provide us with an opportunity for more flexibility when considering what areas strategic acquisitions of commercial property can take place. There have been a number of conversations, a number of questions at the table. I know Director Frank and I have sat in meetings where the question continues to come up about the available parcels of land for development in Minneapolis and what does that look like, and the question about having more shovel-ready property available for developers. This fund would allow us to be able to assemble parcels of property to meet the needs of developers in a relatively expedient manner. The 500K here, based on the previous questions, the 500K is requested as an existing program continuation for 2016, because if you recall, 500K was not budgeted in 2015. We had some dollars that needed to be spent down. This request is considered an enhancement, although it is, based on your previous question that was raised, it is to maintain current service levels. Again, the funds would be used for the acquisition of commercial redevelopment property that is along commercial corridors and nodes. And again, lifting the restrictions provides us with some more flexibility.
Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to note about half the people on the council have asked me about properties that they wanted to purchase in their wards. You don't need to tell me who you are. I know who you are. I am seeking to find another $500,000 for this fund. Given where we are right now and the priorities the council set, it seems to me as though there's going to be a need. There are various issues that come up that create an opportunity for us to purchase property, and I don't think the existing allocation is going to be enough based on what I'm hearing. Some projects we end up spending money not out of this fund to acquire land, but there are some we could acquire land for out of this fund. So I'm working with the mayor's office and staff on both adding more money to this fund and a small additional appropriation to the Upper Harbor Terminal Fund, which you'll see next.
Councilmember Yang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to kind of piggyback on Councilmember Goodman's points. I'm one of the people that she's referring to, and I just look at like $500,000 and I just think it's a drop in the bucket because it goes away so fast. I mean, any of these lots that could be available, let's say on West Broadway or anywhere in North Minneapolis. I mean, a lot of these properties are, they cost money. I mean, $500,000 could get you maybe a little parcel basically. And so I'm wondering, if we can, in some ways be much more aggressive in terms of acquiring, parcels, all across the city, just because in some ways, I mean, once, we have control, I think we have a little bit more control over, what gets put in a certain area and those sorts of things. And so I'd like to see a lot more money put into those.
Thank you for your comment. Councilmember Goodman, or you have a follow-up? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Moving forward. Enhancement number 9. The mayor's recommended budget includes a $155,000 enhancement for Upper Harbor Terminal. Those funds, and certainly correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chair, Ms. Christensen, are coming from the Development Fund. The funds will be used to do initially an RFI and an RFQ. The RFI will help to give local businesses and nonprofits and other entities an opportunity to be considered during the plan formulation process, whereas the RFQ will be used to help the city and the park board to identify a master developer for phase 1. The process also will allow us to do several other things, if I may add. Identify a private partner to help craft a creative but yet realistic integrated vision and implementation plan for the first phase. It will also allow us to determine with private input and further exploration if it would be feasible to rehabilitate any of the existing structures that currently are on that footprint. Third, it would allow us to determine on some level the potential amenities package and what components would be feasible or cool. I like that, cool. And whether those components should be within or outside of the park area boundary. And last, it would allow us to explore the marketplace to get a sense of what types of high potential high-quality development opportunities could actually occur in that area.
I would start the next slide really quickly.
Thank you, sir. Moving forward. Enhancement number 10. Mr. Chair? Okay. Thank you. The mayor's recommended budget includes a $100,000 enhancement in support of the Cedar Riverside Opportunity Hub. I believe these dollars will come from the general fund. The funds will be used to support an opportunity hub in the heart of Cedar Riverside community. The Opportunity Hub is a culturally specific economic resource center where community residents will be able to access educational, business, workforce, and other resources that will help provide direct access to skill building, technical assistance, and other employment opportunities. The hub will provide as well counseling services to connect people with external service providers that where resources that are not necessarily provided in the hub that can be found outside of the hub. The goal of the hub, ladies and gentlemen, simply is to improve the lives and opportunities of residents in this area by connecting them to a wide range of comprehensive services, resources, and tools. These resources will assist members of the community in raising their standard of living and providing stable economic conditions for themselves and their families. Resources provided at the hub will help to promote self-sufficiency. And so what this means essentially is providing people with an opportunity to have access to the economic mainstream of society, where we understand specifically that many of these groups live in a political economy that has systematically and institutionally obstructed their efforts to gain access to equal economic opportunity. And this is a program that would help to shift that paradigm. Hennepin County is a partner. They will contribute funds. They have committed to contributing funds. They will also act as the fiscal agent and run the day-to-day operations of the hub. Emerge, we all are familiar with Emerge, has made a commitment to lease space in the hub as well to provide workforce services. There have been other commitments, financially and otherwise, from other partners, MCTC, Fairview, University of Minnesota, and several others have expressed interest in partnering with the Opportunity Hub. In summary, ladies and gentlemen, it is my position that this is something that is clearly worth investing in. And it's something that I believe that CPED, on some level, should be involved in as well. Why? Because I believe that CPED must be a catalyst for spurring development in areas where there have been market challenges and disinvestment. I believe that we have to play a role in helping underserved communities and populations accumulate assets, create wealth, and improve their general overall economic well-being. This will give us an opportunity to play a role in that. Now, I do realize, given the area, that meeting these objectives, particularly in areas like this where negative perceptions have contributed to market challenges, will be extremely difficult. But yet I firmly and fundamentally believe that working in and with this community is central to our mission.
Councilmember Yang had a question, followed by Councilmember Glidden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Taylor, with regards to this, with all due respect to the council member of this area, it was pointed out earlier that in some ways, with certain programs, we're picking winners and losers. And so, in that situation, how do we do it so that we can, make it fair across the board just for competition's sake in terms of who gets access to or who can, apply for the funds, and or in some situation, how do we spread the funds across the city so that everyone benefits? And are we thinking about those sorts of things? Because I hear you. I hear the part about, areas with market challenges. We as government need to help or intervene if at all possible. But in let's say a city like ours where there are, let's say many pockets where there are market challenges. which areas are we going to focus on, and or are we going to focus on all of them, and can we just throw money at all of those places?
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Yang, that's an excellent question. And to be quite honest, I don't have the answer. I mean, I think certainly in my mind, there are some areas that need much more attention than others, clearly do. The process by which we decide where we will invest our resources and focus our time certainly has to require, I think, a much broader discussion, certainly with policymakers and other members of our enterprise staff. But I think that's a great question.
Councilmember Glidden? Or do you have a follow-up? Okay, go ahead, Elizabeth, sorry.
Thank you. And I'm generally familiar with this project. I know it to get some conversation too at the legislature and a lot of partners here. I will say I just didn't quite understand from the presentation what these one-time funds are going to be used for. Is it related to service delivery? Is it related to some kind of startup cost? I'm not understanding the purpose of the funds, and maybe the issue is it hasn't been refined yet. So I'd like some better understanding of this proposed enhancement.
Sure. Mr. Chair, that's a great question. I'm going to allow Councilmember Masami to respond.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and to Director Taylor, and also I'd like to thank the Mayor's office for putting this on the budget or recommended budget. And I would like to answer Council Yang's points, which is there are a lot of areas that have a need. However,